Hey, so this video is super overdue, but I've been real busy. I've been real overwhelmed because if you follow my Instagram, you'll see that I have been working on my graphic novel, The Eclipse Project, and it's finally out. And one thing that I really wanted to do was put together a launch event, gathering all of my friends and kind of inviting them into my magical fairy world. You may have seen on my Instagram that I posted these things called Eclipse Talks, where me and a friend will kind of get into a discussion about blackness and imagination. Here are a few examples if you haven't seen them.
We need to dream up like different imaginations as black people, because if we settle on like the harsh realities and the harsh truths, then you're not dreaming and thinking, oh, this is the way my life could look.
Or this.
No, I have zero manual on how to live where I am, in the body that I am. Also being trans, I like being black. It's already hard in Switzerland, but black and trans. There was really no guidebook on that, so.
Or this.
The theory of time travel, right?
Yeah.
Or time being infinite and not linear.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
all time is happening at once. So when you are like 30 and you're kind of healing your 16-year-old self, it's because you're living them simultaneously.
And this.
And I think that Afro-Futurism is really inspiring to me as a practice, more so than like a movement or like a literary whatever or artistic whatever. Like as a practice of like wanting to reinvent yourself and wanting to commit to change is really a beautiful thing.
And now I've had the chance to do an Eclipse Talks live, and I'm going to share the highlights with you. And so I gathered a bunch of my friends, Amaka, Halima, Jai, and B, and of course myself. And yeah, we got to talking about Afro-Futurism.
For me, it's so important to me because I felt for so long I felt like my work that I would create people wouldn't sort of gravitate towards it. People didn't understand it because it wasn't the norm and it didn't fit into what a black creative person should be fitting into it. That I just said to myself, I was like, no, like I'm gonna do what I want to do, and I want to create a planet of black people who live amongst aliens and in just any kind of way to show that we can go to places and we can be in those environments in that futuristic way, and it can empower us in the best way. I've always wanted to get out of my box. I don't want to think like everybody else, and I think that's what Afro-Futurism is. It's not thinking like everybody else, it's thinking outside of the box and just imagining where can I be in the future? My family, where could my historical family, where could they have been if they didn't have to go through the things that they went through? What would that look like? And that's what Afro-Futurism is and what it means to me.
Because we were talking about this yesterday, I feel like neurodivergence and blackness is the future, basically. It's literally as simple as that. Everything that exists that's important has either come from someone black or someone neurodivergent, or someone black and neurodivergent as far as I'm concerned. Being neurodivergent, I feel like, black neurodivergent, I feel like is the right crowd to be in, because there's so many intersections, there's so many things to understand. You kind of understand queerness and things like that if you're not queer yourself, just because your brain understands it, you're able to adapt. You understand racism, trauma, oppression. There's just so many things that you understand as a neurodivergent person, and then again as a black person. So yeah, I feel like I found the right crowd when I started Black and Neurodiverse, because what I needed was understanding on so many different, I needed understanding of so many different things and on so many different levels. And I feel like the only people that have actually been able to hold me on all of those is Black neurodivergent people, because they feel the same way. So my relationship with my mother has done 180 so far, but last week at the year. So I started setting boundaries with my mom. I basically started telling her no, like period no, instead of like, instead of being stressed, like being like, I was just like, no, I don't want to go. Like, sorry, I'm not going to go to that. And she started to respect me somehow. So that has changed a lot, and I feel like I needed to get back into my inner being. But when I was a child, me and my mum were friends. Do you know what I mean? Because I was a child. So I needed to get back there, and I feel like she can see that I'm almost back there, and she can see, because one of the things that she's always said, and this is when I started figuring out that I didn't know I was neurodivergent. So to me, I was just depressed and anxious. I didn't know anything else. So I was like, I'm depressed and I'm anxious. And my mum was like, you're not the same person. Like, you've changed and all of this and and now I think she can see the same person because I've started to heal and I've started to get back into my inner child. And that has healed our relationship tremendously.
I'm a filmmaker, photographer, creative, and one of my goals as an artist is to platform Somali culture, because I feel like living in the West, often I'm only ever seeing my culture through like a Somali British lens. And a company that I work with, Resolve Collective, they are a really beautiful company that like prioritize, in this era of their work, they're focusing on play. And as adults and as Black adults as well, we don't really have the opportunity to be seen in ways that are messy and, you know, just so complex that it's difficult to like wrap up in more, because that's what I guess white supremacy kind of as a narrative wants to do to us. It wants to tie us up in like a bow and have our narratives just be something clean and cute and adorable and stuff. But I think there's something so beautiful about embracing how like completely complex we are. Actually, one of my first like exposures to Afro-Futurism was Atlanta. I don't know if you guys watched the show, but they're just in the most absurd situations. And funnily enough, I didn't actually link that it was an Afro-futuristic show until I read a review, and I realized that like the show was healing to me in ways that I had never really been able to vocalize, because just to see Black people be so messy and be in such like almost like borderline dangerous situations, they're constantly laughing at you, and through the screen they're trying to say like, we want to be seen, and a way for us to do that is to laugh. So that was my first like aspect of understanding Afro-Futurism as a theory. It's kind of like touched my work in really beautiful ways, because currently making a zine about Somali culture, and I've been kind of like having to have these deep inner reflections on who I am as a person, because I think when you're like showing a work to people, I feel like the only way I can really hope to people to receive it is not in a linear way, not in a way where they can again tie it up in a bow. I want them to say, I didn't like this, I didn't fuck with this part, you know, your work is shit. Like, I want them to say that to me, because I feel like that's a way for me to understand like I'm not perfect. And I feel like, again, being fed this narrative of if you are going to be a Black person in this society, you have to mask and you have to make yourself as palatable as humanly possible.
Well, I felt very absorbed in the conversation and hearing all these different perspectives and such authentic points of view, which is really special to be in a room where you're hearing people. And I think that's really important, and that's kind of secondary, like natural progression of first being honest with yourself and kind of having to silence or just quiet down all the noise and all the constant imagery that we're seeing. So I just invite everybody to and again take another deep breath in and hold it at the top, and then release. You have to go inward first, and you have to look within yourself and think, like, do I know myself? Do I know my gifts? Because otherwise, without knowing your own power, you're kind of just copying somebody else.
the Tate Modern defines it as a genre of media that features stories from Black history, specifically slavery. And I think it's annoying because I think the word Afro being in front just gives them, an excuse to group anything that we as Black people do into one small little cute thing that you can push to the side. And I think that we should be able to, one, be allowed to be in the main genres of, like, when something is sci-fi, it doesn't have to be Black sci-fi just because Black people are in it. Like, it can just be sci-fi. And I feel like we should be allowed the space to have our own little niches. And Afro-Futurism isn't just about our history, it's about sci-fi, it's futurism.
Exactly.
And I think our current idea of sci-fi being aliens and technology is based on a white perspective. So Afro-Futurism is challenging what futurism as a word can mean when Blackness is attached to it. And I feel like we, in general, are capable of amazing things. The music that we create, the food that we create, the dances that we make, that just shows that there is more to life than technology advancing and capitalism. Like, with Blackness, there's a whole different future that there's a space for, and I think that's what he is saying, is that, like, it's uncharted territory, but it doesn't have to be uncharted. Like, that's our job, to, like, just exist and be creative and be, like, silly.